Namo Phat, good morning. Thank you for joining me for our daily practice check-in. Listen, listen, listen. This beautiful sound calls us back to our true home. The fifth mindfulness training. Aware of the suffering caused by unmindful consumption, I vow to cultivate good health, both physical and mental, for myself, my family, and my society, by practicing mindful eating, drinking, and consuming. I will ingest only items that preserve peace, well-being, and joy in my body, in my consciousness, and in the collective body and consciousness of my family and society. I'm determined not to use alcohol or any other items that contain toxins, such as certain TV programs, magazines, books, films, and conversations. I'm aware that to damage my body or my consciousness with these poisons is to betray my ancestors, my parents, my society, and future generations. I will work to transform violence, fear, anger, and confusion in myself and in society by practicing a diet for myself and for society. I understand that a proper diet is crucial for self-transformation and the transformation of society. For our Dharma lessons, we've been reading Ajahn Thiradhammo's book, Working with the Five Hindrances. This morning, we're reading Lack of Motivation. One source of lethargy is a lack of motivation or loss of purpose, coming from not finding any joy in spiritual practice. If we're not getting any results from our efforts, we incline towards dissatisfaction and boredom. There are a few different causes of that too. One I call the spiritual doldrums. This is a stage when it seems as if our practice dries up. Usually this is more marked for people who are fairly new to the practice. The reason they keep practicing is because they get some benefit from it. I don't think it's just the fragrant incense that inspires them. They get results and they want more. Hopefully it's insights and not just lights. Sometimes it's simply the newness of the practice, the interest, the fascination of discovering your inner world. But after a while, you may notice that the benefits appear to diminish. Maybe even the insights stop happening, or the enthusiasm or interest dries up. When we first take up a spiritual practice, it is all quite new to us. But as we become more familiar with it, it becomes quite normal to be more awake, concentrated, and peaceful in everyday life. It becomes our ordinary way of being rather than something especially spiritual. It can thus seem that nothing special is happening. The honeymoon is over, and the doldrums have set in. But this may actually be a positive sign that spiritual practice is internalizing and normalizing within everyday life. As someone said, when you light a match in the dark, it appears very bright. When you light it in the daylight, it's hardly noticeable. This is somewhat similar to living in a new country. In the beginning, it is all very exciting. There are different kinds of food and different cultural activities. However, after a while, life there becomes quite ordinary. Then our appreciation for this new environment changes. It shifts to a different level. Rather than just appreciating the outward expressions, the food, the sights and sounds, you experience something else. When I was first staying in Thailand, for example, I found it fascinating. The Thais made all kinds of very interesting and tasty food. Later I became more familiar with it, and it seemed quite ordinary. Then I began to appreciate something else about the Thai culture, the Thais' ability to go with the flow of life a lot more than Westerners. I had frequent reminders that everything is nay, uncertain. This was quite different from my familiar Western values. Previously, I had everything planned ahead, well organized, the year's calendar filled with activities, but Thai people would say, "Oh, never mind, we'll see what happens." However, the other side of it was that they would say they'd come today, but then they wouldn't turn up. It's uncertain whether I come today or tomorrow. Nonetheless, there was a certain charm and good-naturedness to this. And it was very helpful for Buddhist spiritual practice because they were not just talking about uncertainty and impermanence, they were living it, living with uncertainty every day of their lives. Maybe it would happen, maybe it wouldn't. Whereas people in the West become anxious, frustrated, and angry if something planned doesn't happen. With my Western conditioning, I'd get really frustrated when things didn't work out. And then I would be reminded, uncertain. And the frustration would just dissolve. Oh yes, right. The reality of things is really uncertain. It's my own problem that I am putting this fixedness on things, wanting them to work this way, because that makes me feel secure and in control. May all beings be well. May all beings be happy. May all beings be peaceful. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you for joining me today.